You weren't crazy. Dr. Doom has been lurking in the MCU for years. You just never looked at the right frames. Let me show you what Marvel's been hiding in plain sight. When you think about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, your brain probably jumps to the big bads we've already met: Thanos, Ultron, Loki, Kang. But what if I told you that Victor Von Doom has been quietly sneaking into the background of the MCU from the very beginning? Not as a full reveal, not as a named drop, but as subtle breadcrumbs woven into 15 different movies. And if you rewatch with this theory in mind, suddenly everything looks different. Let's start at the very beginning, with the Avengers in 2012. On the surface, it's New York chaos, Chitauri swarming, Stark Tower glowing. But look at what that battle really set up. Earth exposed as vulnerable, the mix of alien tech with human ingenuity, and governments scrambling to respond. Who would be more interested in that than Doom? A man obsessed with power, science, and control. Even if he isn't on screen, the foundation is practically tailor-made for someone like him to be lurking in the shadows, watching every failure and every success of Earth's heroes. Move to Iron Man 3. Everyone focuses on the Mandarin twist, but think about Aldrich Killian for a second. A brilliant scientist burned by rejection, twisting science into something unstable, willing to blow up the world to prove a point. That's Doom's energy all over. The Extremis program feels like a prototype for the kind of science meets madness cocktail Doom would perfect. And let's be honest, Tony Stark's arrogance practically guaranteed that someone out there was keeping notes. Someone with a bigger plan than Killian ever had. Then you land in Avengers, Age of Ultron. A story about a man playing God, creating intelligence he couldn't control, and accidentally unleashing chaos. Sure, it's Stark and Banner's mistake, but it echoes Doom's greatest flaw, the belief that his genius should place him above everyone else. Ultron's lines about being beyond strings and free could just as easily come from Doom's mouth. And what's wild is how this movie quietly planted the idea that Earth's most dangerous villains might not just be aliens or monsters. They might be men with the audacity to outsmart gods. By the time we get to Doctor Strange, the MCU fully opens the door to sorcery, alternate dimensions, and metaphysical power. Now suddenly, there's room for someone who isn't just a scientist. Someone who blends technology with magic. That's Doom's signature. And every time Strange pulls a sling ring portal or toys with forbidden spells, you can imagine a man in Latveria smirking, knowing he could bend both science and sorcery to his will. Thor. Ragnarok makes it even clearer. This isn't just about smashing hammers and Jeff Goldblum being fabulous. Ragnarok introduces us to the idea of civilizations falling, power shifting, and ancient rulers being toppled. Doom thrives in chaos like that. When Asgard crumbles, when gods bleed, Doom is exactly the type of opportunist who'd see an opening. And if you think that sounds like a stretch, remember, this is a character defined by patience. Doom doesn't rush in fists first. He waits until everyone else has punched themselves tired. Now, Spider-Man: Homecoming. At first glance, it's just a fun high school adventure. But think about the Vulture for a second. He's literally making a living by scavenging alien tech left behind after battles. That's exactly the kind of thing Doom would do on a national scale. Strip the Avengers' scraps, re-engineer them, and turn them into weapons for his own empire. The MCU shows us this idea again and again. After every fight, the wreckage doesn't just vanish. People, or rulers, scoop it up. Doom fits perfectly into that ecosystem, quietly growing stronger off the Avengers' mistakes. Black Panther adds another juicy layer. Wakanda reveals itself to the world, showing advanced tech, vibranium, and a new geopolitical game board. Who else would immediately become obsessed with that revelation? Doom. He's not just a villain. He's a monarch. Seeing Wakanda step into the light sets the stage for another hidden nation, Latveria, to rise. And if you squint at the politics of Wakanda's reveal, you can almost feel Doom sharpening his claws, waiting for the right moment to pull his own kingdom into the spotlight. Jump to Avengers: Infinity War. The whole movie is about Thanos collecting stones, but what's more interesting is who's watching from the sidelines. We're shown a universe full of ambitious beings taking notes. And while Thanos is crushing everyone's dreams, Doom would be the guy scribbling in his notebook. realizing that if you can't collect stones, you can outsmart the ones who do. The parallels between Thanos' obsession and Doom's drive are too sharp to ignore. Then we hit Endgame, and this is where theories go completely off the rails in the best way. The time heist. Heroes bouncing through timelines, creating splinters and paradoxes. You don't think Doom, the man obsessed with time, wouldn't have noticed? Some fans even argue that one of those branched timelines spun off into a reality where Tony Stark, scarred, bitter, brilliant, becomes Doom himself. It's wild, sure, but in a multiverse where Loki can fall in love with himself and Spider-Man can meet two other Spider-Men, tell me it's impossible. And speaking of Spider-Man, Far From Home practically screams Doom. A world scrambling after Tony's death, governments looking for new leaders, shady organizations filling power vacuums. Enter Mysterio, another fraud posing as something bigger. But Doom? Doom would be the one laughing at the chaos, already building Latveria's rise behind the curtain while kids in spider suits try to save Europe. So we've already walked through the early and middle phases of the MCU, where Doom feels like this phantom hand scribbling notes in the background. But now we're stepping into Marvel's multiverse playground, where the rules bend, time cracks open, and honestly, it becomes harder not to imagine Doom lurking around every corner. Take WandaVision. Everyone focused on Wanda, Vision, and Agatha. But let's zoom out. You've got reality literally rewritten like it's a bad soap opera binge. Who else in Marvel lore obsesses over reshaping reality itself? Doom. The man is infamous for stealing power from beings way above his pay grade, twisting worlds to fit his image. Watching Wanda warp Westview into her personal fantasy almost feels like a practice run for what Doom will one day attempt on a global scale. And the fact that Marvel leaned into magic versus science during the series, that's Doom's sweet spot. He's the guy who would look at Wanda's powers, take notes, and think, all right, I'll need that later. Then we swing to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. At first glance, it's about politics, symbols, and what happens when the world needs a new Captain America. But buried under all that is a story about governments scrambling, super soldier serums floating around, and entire systems falling apart. Doom thrives in instability. Latveria, in the comics, has always positioned itself as the nation that benefits when others flounder. A world fractured by blipped populations, rogue terrorists, and leaders fumbling for control, that's Doom's ideal entry point. Even if we don't see him, the pieces being set up are exactly what a ruler like him would exploit. Loki kicks things into overdrive. Variants, timelines, universes collapsing in on themselves. This is Doom's playground. In fact, the TVA's obsession with control mirrors Doom's obsession with order. He might dress it up as saving humanity, but it's always about his rule, his vision, his timeline. The very concept of Kang running the show at the end of time sets up a natural successor. Because, let's face it, if Kang falls, someone has to fill that void. And who better than Doom? He's not just powerful, he's cunning. He wouldn't just destroy the TVA, he'd rewrite it to serve him. By the time we get to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, the hints get louder. Strange himself gets accused of being reckless, of breaking rules, of thinking he's above consequences. Sound familiar? That's Doom's entire brand. The Illuminati scene, all those powerful figures sitting in a secret council deciding the fate of worlds, practically screams, Doom incoming. Because in the comics, Doom is always sniffing around those kinds of elite rooms, crashing the party, proving that he should be the one in charge. And when we see Strange corrupted by the Darkhold, we get a glimpse of how easily brilliance can slide into tyranny. Swap out Strange for Doom, and the parallels are impossible to ignore. Then we've got Shang-Chi, a mystical empire, ancient rings of unimaginable power, legacies handed down through generations. Again, it's the perfect kind of artifact Doom would be obsessed with. He's not the kind of villain who smashes a city because he's angry. He's the one who collects, studies, and weaponizes power. You can picture him already drafting blueprints for how to fuse the 10 rings with sorcery and tech, just waiting for the right opportunity to steal them. Eternals takes the hints cosmic, celestials, ancient civilizations, hidden histories. And if you know Doom, You know he's the guy who would look at a secret like a celestial egg slumbering under Earth and say, "How do I harness this?" The Eternals' entire struggle is basically a love letter to the kind of massive, mythic stories Doom belongs in. It's no coincidence Marvel dropped that right before heading full speed into multiverse chaos. Even Moon Knight, tucked away on Disney+, feels like Doom foreshadowing. Gods meddling in mortal affairs, avatars chosen to serve higher powers, artifacts holding unimaginable strength. This is Doom territory, blending divine mysticism with cold calculation. If Marvel is showing us gods who can be manipulated, you'd better believe they're setting up someone like Doom to take advantage. Then there's Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. If the first Black Panther teased Doom as the rival monarch waiting in the wings, the sequel doubles down. Nations are scrambling for vibranium, Wakanda is vulnerable, and Namor rises from the shadows as a powerful adversary. And who historically in Marvel Comics is linked to both Namor and Wakanda? That's right, Doom. Even if his name never comes up, the groundwork is all there. He's the wild card that could easily be slipped in later as the true puppet master pulling strings in the vibranium race. Now, let's zoom out. 15 movies deep, Doom is painted into the negative space of the MCU. He's not the face on the poster, but he's the shadow in the corner. The genius watching Stark's mistakes. The sorcerer scribbling in Strange's margins. The monarch staring across the ocean at Wakanda. Marvel has made him feel inevitable, even without ever putting him on screen. And the genius of it is this. They've primed the audience without us realizing. Every time we've seen a villain who's almost Doom, a Killian, an Ultron, a Mysterio, even a Kang, it's been training wheels. Characters who scratch the surface of Doom's archetype without ever fully becoming him. Marvel has been preparing us for the big one, letting us nibble at appetizers while the main course has been simmering in the kitchen for over a decade. Why hide him for so long? Because Doom isn't just another bad guy. He's not a one-movie villain. He's the kind of character you build an entire saga around. The same way Thanos' shadow hung over phases 1 through 3, Doom has been ghosting his way through phases 2 through 5. And when he finally steps into the light, whether it's in Fantastic Four, Avengers, Secret Wars, or even sooner, the impact will feel like Marvel pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Except the rabbit's been sitting in plain view the whole time, and we just weren't sharp enough to notice. So the next time you rewatch the MCU, keep your eyes peeled. When you see a scientist dabbling in forces they don't understand, when you see governments scrambling to fill power vacuums, when you see heroes breaking timelines like they're twigs, imagine Doom, watching, waiting, smiling. Because if there's one thing Victor Von Doom is best at, it's patience. And his moment is coming. And that's the fun of Marvel. Maybe you don't need a post-credit scene with a hooded figure to know he's there. Maybe he's already been in 15 movies, laughing at us for missing him. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to drop a like, share it with someone who loves overanalyzing Marvel just as much as you do, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Doom's been there all along, or are we just connecting dots Marvel never intended?